According to the Center for Disease Control, chronic diseases such as obesity, heart disease, cancer, and diabetes are the leading causes of death and disability in the United States. These diseases are among the most common and costly health problems. However, they're also among the most preventable. By adopting a healthy lifestyle such as eating nutritious, whole foods and being physically active, one can prevent or control the devastating effects of these diseases. The National Center for Disease and Health Promotions named heart disease and stroke the nation's leading killers. More than 870,000 Americans die of heart disease and stroke every year, which is about 2,400 people dying every day. Although these largely preventable conditions are most common among older adults, more than 148,000, 17% of Americans who died of cardiovascular diseases in 2004 were younger than age 65. Heart disease and stroke also are among the leading causes of disability in the U.S. workforce. Nearly 1 million people are disabled from strokes alone. Obesity increases the risk of many diseases and health conditions such as hypertension, high blood pressure, osteoarthritis, a degeneration of cartilage and its underlying bone within a joint, dyslipidemia, for example, high total cholesterol or high levels of triglycerides, type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, sleep apnea and respiratory problems, some cancers, endometrial, breast, and colon.
The healthcare system in the United States has to change. We are the sickest industrialized country in the world, but we have been told to go along with the standard American diet, and if we become ill, we can take a pill, go for surgery, or follow some other procedure. "80% of our degenerative diseases are avoidable. Millions of people are dying from degenerative diseases that we do not have to suffer from." Well, I'd like to tell you today that we don't have to succumb to this type of darkness. My vision is to help people and to heal the world. My name is Dr. Fred Bisci. I'm a PhD in nutritional science with a practice in Staten Island, which I've had for approximately almost 40 years. I've probably seen 25,000 people over the last 40 years. I've been eating 100% raw. I don't eat cooked food. I actually originally started when I was a young kid and I was going through the school system here in New York City. I was problematic. Back in the 30s, when I was growing up, they didn't know what dyslexic was. If you couldn't read in the 5th grade or you had some kind of speech impediment, they just classified you as being problematic some type, and they had what was called the ungraded class, and they would put you in the ungraded class, and I definitely did not want to go into the ungraded class. So I really didn't reveal to people that I I couldn't read, and I had a speech impediment that I was very conscious of. It kind of slurred my words. I was into athletics. I was 16 years old. I spent most of my time in the gym or out running around in the streets. And then I was interested in nutrition even when I was a kid because I wanted to improve my athletic performance, and I tried to find out as much as I possibly could that would help me. There was a friend of mine that was a good athlete. We decided to volunteer to go into the service. I was participating in athletics when I was in the Navy. I ran a gym. We had a weightlifting team. We competed in weightlifting. I was very heavy into the Olympic type weightlifting and heavy resistance training. I always tried to make it as hard as I possibly could when I was training, and then get an adequate amount of rest, because when you train like that at maximum intensity, you have to get enough rest for your body to recuperate. A lot of people overtrain and they're not realizing that you have to get plenty of rest in order for it to recuperate. There was days when I trained really hard. I wouldn't train for 4 or 5 days. That's why when I went back, I felt very, very strong. If I had trained the next day, my body had not fully recuperated. At that time, my diet was more conducive to building muscle. It wasn't the optimal diet for longevity and for health. My peak weight was about 220 pounds. I met a guy that was a boxing coach that had brought to my attention, he thought I was too heavy for my size. He recommended that I change my diet, eat a diet that consisted of fruits, vegetables, and animal protein, which I did. I lost a lot of weight, and I noticed when that happened that the problem I had with, my mood swings and, my ability to read and visualize what I was looking at changed, but I didn't realize what was happening there. I didn't realize that till later on when I really got into nutrition after I got out of the service. And the conclusion I had come to was, of course, I was training so hard that was doing it. But I found out every time I went on Liberty and went out and ate something that I normally didn't eat, then I would lapse right back into the problems I had. My moodiness, my irritability, my inability to focus on what I was looking at. But I didn't realize what was really happening there. And that's one of the main reasons that I actually got into nutrition when I got out of the service. I kind of gave up the weightlifting. I went through a dramatic transformation. I lost over 70 pounds. And the biological healing going from a weightlifter's diet to a diet of raw foods, trust me, it was really, really traumatic. I mean, there was a period there I thought I shot myself in the foot. I didn't think I was going to survive it. But it gave me a very keen insight into biological healing, because I kept records of everything I did, and before I did anything, I wanted to make sure I understood, internally what was happening to me. Well, the raw diet is when a person that eats fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, avocados, sprouts, unprocessed, unheated food. Years ago, it was not too many people were doing it. A lot of people that were doing it weren't doing well at it. Some people did fabulously. A lot of studies went on. It was definitely a radical diet that most people could not do. And I was curious about it because when I got in it, after studying, I thought, studying science, and when I went to school, I thought you really couldn't do it. And there was so much confusing information in books, I decided to test it for myself. Turned out to be something really spectacular. The key to health, I come to realize, is what you leave out, and just that you connect all the dots and get all the nutrients you need. And a raw food diet is the best way to really do that, but unfortunately it's not attainable for everybody. I continued to do that as years went on. I did a lot of long-term fasting. I wanted to test the fasting aspects of it. I saw the minuses and the plus about that. I saw the benefits and the risk. Then I got to study juice fasting. And one day I decided to really test the parameters, and I did a 38-day water fast, and then I did 5 months on juices. And I wanted to see how long you could push the package and remain healthy. To my surprise, not only did I not lose ground, but I actually gain benefits from it. Of course, you get very thin, and everybody that's watching you do this, they think you're really hurting yourself because they don't really understand how it happens. When you're coming off a high protein diet and you go to this type of a diet, you're really tearing your body down to the bone, so to speak, because you're eating a lot of animal protein. Like we're doing in our society today, it speeds up your metabolism. You know, in the beginning, it'll actually lower your cholesterol, and you'll burn body fat, but it accelerates your aging process. I feel that they're largely responsible that at this point in my life, you know, it won't be long before I'll be 80 years old, where I'm still vital and alive and moving around pretty much like I did 30, 35 years ago.
My name is Michael Prin, and I'm a nutritional counselor, a colonic therapist, and a detox consultant in the East Village in New York City. What was happening with me is that basically at a certain point I started to live like a rock star, but I wasn't in a band and I had no talent. I couldn't play any instruments, and I really started to degenerate very quickly physically. So I started to change the way I was eating. And what happened when I changed the way I was eating is I began to detox very rapidly. So I lost a lot of weight very quickly. My skin started to break out. I didn't really look too good. A lot of people thought that I was, I got myself sick from all of my past habits. My family was telling me that I was, probably not getting enough protein, and you weren't getting this, and you must be making a mistake. So I remembered from high school, a high school teacher that actually mentioned Dr. Bisci in our class, and I just always remembered him mentioning this doctor that would talk about how flour is bleached and too much animal food is acidic. I thought it was fascinating. And like I say, the truth is self-evident. Results speak for themselves. Many people that switch to a healthy diet, they don't have to wait a year to see the results. Some people start to see the results in 10, 12, 15 days, like the gentleman we had on one of the previous shows, Eddie, starts to see a change very, very quickly. It's dramatic sometimes. The biggest challenge for me was trying to figure out what to eat. And it was pretty boring for the first 8 months. And I really worked it perfectly. Exactly what Dr. Bisci told me to do, I did. And I wasn't seasoning my food. The food wasn't exciting. You have to remember, I used to eat McDonald's, pizza, Burger King, and all these very stimulating type of foods. So now here I am boiling brown rice, no salt, eating a salad, no salad dressing. I didn't really know how to make it work because I had read a lot from John Robbins in Diet for a New America, and Dr. Bisci was actually there for me within the first 3 or 4 months of making the lifestyle change. So I really knew that I was getting information from someone that was really experienced, someone that I could really trust. Immediately within the first few months, I saw these fantastic physical changes happen in my body, and I felt fantastic. I absolutely have more energy and more clarity of mind than I ever had before. I mean, I was 60 pounds heavier than I am now. My skin shines, my mind is sharper. It's a lot easier to move around when you lose 60 pounds. So if I would have continued to live the lifestyle that I was leading, I'm sure right now that I'd probably, instead of sitting in my own office, I'd probably be sitting in a doctor's office somewhere right now. The human body has the ability to do such unbelievable things. If we give up the processed food, eat simple foods in its highest biological form, we can accomplish astounding things with people's health. I've been fortunate enough that I've seen so many people over the years, so I like to think what I did was kind of like an epidemiological study, because fortunately I have a pretty good memory, and it didn't take me long to be able to see what was getting results with people. So it was basically very, very simple. I saw who failed and I saw who was successful. Of course, there's always failures. There always will be failures for certain, no matter how good you eat. But we're not reaching our full lifespan. Right now, the mean lifespan is 120 years. Human body was designed to live beyond that, beyond a shadow of a doubt. We're living in an environment, it's a fallen environment. There's probably 100,000 chemicals that are in our environment they're not aware of. They're a real problem. People just don't realize that we're immersed in an environment that is
a precursor to a degenerative disease. We are probably the sickest industrialized country in the world. I remember from my early life back in the, after the Depression, in the early 30s, into the 40s, I came from a poor family. We ate real food in very small amounts. Nobody was ever sick. Very few times did we ever have to see a doctor. I don't think I ever saw a doctor in the first 15 years of my life. Never missed a day of school. Didn't have a clue about nutrition. Didn't have the slightest idea what was going on. Came from a family of 9 children. My mother was a very hard-working Italian immigrant who just fed us things from the backyard, or she went out into the parks and picked dandelions, and we ate raw fresh dandelions, and she took, in those days, the store, you went into a store, it had big barrels, you just took the grains out of the barrels. They had meat that didn't have any hormones in it. You could buy a lamb kidney for, I think, 5 or 6 cents, and you could feed a whole family of 9 children, probably for a week, for about $20, $25. So we were eating real food. There was no processed food. I believe it's a myth that we're really living longer. We're not really living longer. The real reason is that, infant mortality is, in spite of the fact that we have the highest infant mortality, the averages are changing, and more people are getting bypass surgery and sophisticated medical technology, which is definitely prolonging a life, but actually we're getting to be sicker. When I was a young guy, you didn't see many people were sick because we lived a very simple life. You didn't eat candy or cake. Who had the money to buy it? You ate simple food. A lot of people had a garden. People that drank, my family, they made homemade wine. They had no chemicals in it. The chemicals, pesticides, whatever chemicals we're taking into our body today is putting a burden on the human physiology, and definitely a factor in people developing cancer. Cancer's out of control in this country.
My name is Alyssa Cariotti.
My name is Maria Patron.
My name is Clarice Domingo.
My name is Marion A. Jan.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer.
I was diagnosed with DCIS, which is a ductal carcinoma in situ of the breast.
I had breast cancer, which they misdiagnosed me, and it spread all over my body, and they gave me 6 months to live.
I'd already been living a somewhat healthy lifestyle about a year prior, and but still there were some changes to be made, and I really wasn't aware of what changes. I said, hey, here I am living a vegan lifestyle, and everything's just good. I felt good, everything was good. Then I got this diagnosis, and was, I guess, shocked, after having lived this way for a little while, and said, everything else has gotten better. And so Mike brought me to Dr. Bisci, and opened up this world of other things that I should be working on to help me get to a better place, to a healthier place.
I had sought out alternative treatments because I felt that my best chances in beating cancer would be by doing the majority of the work on my own. When I made the transition into this lifestyle, I had some ups and downs. I learned a lot about the cleansing process, and I went back and forth for several months like that until I got to a point where I was really permanently feeling well. I have become very sharp-minded. I've noticed that I don't need to sleep as much during the day. Prior to this, I was sleeping during the day all the time. I had to. I couldn't make it through the day without it. And now I can.
Fred's name was one of the first names that were recommended. And I later found out through a very candid conversation with a very close friend from high school that he also was a nutrition-minded person and took up Fred's way of life with complete success.
I met Dr. Bisci, and it changed my whole life. Changed my whole life. It changed. I changed my diet. Nothing bothered me, even like some herbs don't taste as good. I don't care as long as it's helping my body.
When I had my situation with the breast cancer and I completed my treatment, I didn't have the presence of mind at that point before the treatment, although I wish I might have, to seek nutritional counseling. However, when he did talk to me about the chemicals and the drugs that he wanted me to take for 5 years post-surgery and radiation, it just wasn't sitting well with me, and that was my wake-up call.
I was blessed by a very good mother who insisted on us eating fresh vegetables and fruits, and she never opened the can. Everything was cooked fresh. Dr. Bisci's diet is a little different because I couldn't combine all the foods. We had to eliminate certain things at certain times.
When I first got the diagnosis, it was something, okay, well, fine, blood pressure and migraine headaches. Oh, maybe that's something that the diet can do, but maybe not something like breast cancer. And I'm happily shocked and happy that things have been working out wonderfully.
I met with my medical doctor. He looked at what happened, and he believed that it wasn't a recurrence. He believed that it was the same cancer, which luckily was stage 0, just lying there dormant for 5 years. I believe with all of my fibers in my being that this cancer lay dormant and never became aggressive, and never became a tumor, and never became anything because of my diet. Having had the recurrence, I believe, since I keep calling it a recurrence, but my medical doctor didn't think it was that cancer was there for 5.5 years and never did anything because of everything I did, because of Fred, from the moment my treatment stopped. So when you do plan what you want to do, whether it be with medical intervention or not, do not leave out the important piece of nutrition.
We have to address the problem of cancer in this country. Cancer is out of control. More and more people are getting cancer every year. The human body is made up of 50 to approximately 70 trillion cells. Every person, healthy person, has a certain amount of cancer cells that are being kept under control by genetic expression, NK killer cells, and white blood cells. Why does the person's body lose control of this ability to kill cancer cells? What happens there is because of improper feeding of the human body, improper understanding of the chemistry, where the body's immunological system starts to lose its control of cancer cells, and we develop a clinical cancer. The answer to preventing cancer is to be able to follow the right lifestyle, to leave out the cause of disease, and to consume a diet where we're getting all the nutrients that we need in its highest biological form. If we're able to do this, we will be able to prevent the majority of our cancers. Traditional science believes you have to kill a cancer cell. Unfortunately, in many cases, it does not kill the stem cell. It's very, very important that we realize that this situation is really in our hands if we want to prevent cancer. We have to keep our lifestyle clean in order for our immunity to be so empowered where we can keep our cancer cells under control and keep us vital and alive.
I was morbidly obese. I was pre-diabetic, high blood pressure. I had some orthoscopic surgery on my knee. I had heel spurs. I was taking all kinds of medication, allergies, shortness of breath, and what really pushed me over the edge was my depression. My wife left me, and that was a wake-up call to me. I've been a vegetarian for almost 20 years, and I've always gone to vegetarian workshops, conferences, seminars, and I had heard of Fred's reputation. Well, I thought just eating raw food and everything would be fine. The fact of the matter is I was compulsively eating raw food all day long, a phenomenal amount of fruit all day long, a lot of nuts, high fat, a lot of salt. And strangely enough, I was so overweight that I was still able to lose a lot of weight, but I really wasn't that healthy. I used to joke that I never ate on an empty stomach. It was no joke. I really, truly never ate on an empty stomach. I would have anxiety attacks, and I didn't know they were anxiety attacks. I thought they were hunger pangs. So I would eat. I would eat to sedate. I would eat to celebrate. I would eat because I was out of boredom. I would eat because I was socially feeling inadequate, and my life evolved around food. And it's absolutely amazing how this society is addicted to food. This society. It's amazing how I'm addicted to food, how I was addicted to food. And I guess drugs and alcohol and gambling, those vices have negative connotations. Food is a little bit more subtle. It has a lot of positive factors. If you're good, you have birthday cake. If you have ice cream, it's just a wonderful way to celebrate family tradition. But is it really healthy? Fred looked at me, listened to what my diet plan was, and put me on a regime of not compulsively overeating, eating 3 meals a day, fruit only in the morning, fruit only after I exercised. And in fact this is strange, I enjoy food more today than ever before. I don't think I ever really enjoyed food. I would take a bite and gulp it down. Now I savor the food, and it's delicious. My taste buds have changed. It's phenomenal. I've been given an incredible gift. I have a new life. I've been re-energized.
My name is Arthur Borman. I'm a special educator and an administrator in an evening alternative high school program in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I'm a veteran of the Army. I was in the Persian Gulf War, the first Persian Gulf War. When I got out of the Army, I was injured, but the problem is I just tried to tough it out, and I really didn't know that I had sustained a relatively significant back injury. And I kind of let myself go. I gained a huge amount of weight. I shot up to over 300 pounds. Before that happened, part of how it happened was I had a surgery. They were attempting to fix up my leg because I was having a lot of problems with it. And it was kind of botched. I took it way too seriously, and I just sort of closed down that part of my life. I just stopped being a physical person. I continued to eat way too much. I used to pride myself in this idea, well, I'm not bad to my kids or my wife. I don't drink, I don't smoke, so who cares if I eat? And the reality was that was crap. I was saying that to myself, and I wasn't being very consistent with what I believe. I believe that what I do is important. I believe that being a good parent is important, being a good father, being a good teacher, being a good special ed teacher. But at the same time, I was doing things that were not consistent with those values. I put other people in front of myself, which I think is right. But the message I was communicating is that I'm eating myself to death. And this slice of pizza, this bucket of ice cream, whatever, means more to me than the time that I'm not spending with my kids, that I won't be able to spend with them because I'm dead. I met a man named Dallas Page, and he kind of forced me to look at that part of myself. And I didn't like what I saw. It was kind of like getting a therapeutic butt kicking, but I really needed it. He made me look at myself in a way that I didn't like to see myself, but once you see yourself that way, you can't go back. You can't sit there and say, well, that never happened, I don't know this. I knew I had to change.
Dallas Page, better known as AKA Diamond Dallas Page, former professional wrestler, actor, author, inspirational speaker, and creator of the YRG workout. It's an acronym, yoga for regular guys/gals. My wrestling career, I didn't even start until I was 35 and a half years old. Everyone said it was impossible. Yeah, it was never going to happen. But at 35 and a half, I became the oldest rookie ever. At 40, I blew up huge. That was in 1996. Wrestling was the hottest show on cable television, and Diamond Dallas Page was in the middle of everything. 97, 98, I was rated top 4 wrestlers in the world. I was living the dream, and then bang! I ruptured my L4 and L5 so badly that I had lost all flexibility. I was doing a big PR event for YRG Workout, and I got in on a red eye, and I had to go right from there to do radio, and it was like one thing after another. And my brother was trying to get me to, for a long time, even though I was eating really good, he was trying to get me to eat at a different level, which is this food combining thing. And he's telling me all about Fred Bisci and how he's 78 years old and he can still run 10 miles on the beach. And you really, you've met him, but you don't know him. You should try to take the time while you're in New York. Let's just go over to Staten Island and meet him. And we came in, and Fred gave us some fruit and veggies, and started talking about this alternative eating style that had to do with eating, really what would be go into your body and dissolve the fastest. For instance, organic juice. My brother turned me on to organic juicing, which I would never be caught dead doing juicing. What's juicing? I didn't realize it all comes down to what you put in your body that strengthens you.
I had been so overweight for so long that it had literally just taken a huge toll on my health. I could not walk on my own.
What are you doing?
I was, due to a combination of my injuries and my weight, which made it all worse. My injuries were significant, but they weren't as bad as my weight made them to be. I was what they called morbidly obese, and it made it to the point where what was a mild disability was a significant disability.
When I first met Arthur, he sends these pictures of him on canes, front view and side view, and his stomach just like rolled out there. But it's not the stomach, it's the knee braces, the back brace, and the canes. And then I find out he's on these canes for the last 15 years. I'm like, whoa, how am I going to help this guy? And I think, that Fred Bisci's food plan, I'm thinking to myself, if I lost 22 pounds, not trying to lose any weight, just by sticking to a program that I just modified and took out the carbs that Fred told me to eat, I just took those out because I wanted to get lean. If I could lose 22 pounds in 6 weeks and then just change it up and put back 15 pounds of muscle back on, he might be able to work. He was the first person I ever sent the eating plan to. And I sent it to them and said, do you think you could do this? And I sent him the 3 pages. And he sent me back 4 powerful words. He didn't say, I think I can. He didn't say, I'll give it a try. He said, I can do this. You control the way you think. Everything can be happening all around you. You have no control over it. But the one thing we have total control over is our mindset. It's the way we think. We control how we react, how we adapt, how we breathe, oh yeah, and what we put in our mouths.
I had to make a lot of changes, and I really had to think about what I had to do. I had to get my mind right. I knew that somewhere down the road that my life was just going to slope off, getting worse and worse and worse, and fatter and fatter and sicker until I died. When I started the eating program, it's the intermediate level from Dr. Fred Bisci. At first it was a little bit difficult because I had to make up things a little bit differently. There are certain products that I couldn't use anymore, certain things that I really liked that I couldn't have anymore. Most notably cheese products, like the cheese on your pizza or the cheese in your macaroni and cheese, things like that. But once I made the changeover, it really wasn't that bad. Once you get into it and you make a commitment to doing it, you start figuring out how to fit everything together with your lifestyle. I think one of the big advantages is that you can make it work with your lifestyle. I've tried a lot of different diets where you read 80, 100, 200 pages and you can't figure out what's going on because it may as well be written in Sanskrit. Dr. Fred's diet plan, it's not even a diet plan, it's an eating plan. It's a plan you can live on. You're not there for 6 months. You're going to eat clean for for the rest of your life, and the rest of your life is going to be healthier. This works. It is simple to follow. It is not expensive. I am not spending thousands of dollars a month on all kinds of pills and supplements and stuff. I take a couple of vitamins, but mostly it's eating healthy. It's eating healthy, and it's simple and it's easy to do, and you would be amazed how much healthier it is.
I want you to see something, everybody. This is what I've gotten done. I've been on a sensible diet. I haven't starved myself or anything. And I have lost so much weight that if I don't hold these up, they'll fall, and I'm not going to do that right now.
What I'm doing right now is working for me, and I'm not going to quit because I honestly believe this. If I go back to eating the way that I ate before, I believe that I'm going to die. I went from 297 pounds to 160 pounds in less than a year. I have lost basically a human being. I was carrying somebody around on my shoulders. Unfortunately, it was an extra me and a part of me that I didn't like, and I was carrying him around for a decade. I don't need him. I don't really like him. And now, I got rid of him. And you can do this. Anybody can do this. But you have to start someplace. You have to start now.
My name is Mark Fox, and I am a restaurant owner. I had my gallbladder removed, I'm going to guess about 12, 13, 14 years ago. And about 4 years prior to that, my appendix burst. Never really putting two and two together. I went through my life, but as the years have moved on, I was finding that my energy levels were starting to deplete. I was more fatigued. I felt in the last 2-3 years I was not really the energy person that I was prior to that. So I started to research and look on the web and do some reading. I came across Kevin Trudeau's Natural Cures, and in that book there was some resources in the back, a lot of resources, what kind of food you can get and these type of things. And I got to the part about doctors or nutritionists and people who can also shed light with this. And one important name that I saw that was in my area was Dr. Fred Bisci. So I picked up the phone, I called Fred, and he got back to me. So we talked about my history, what I eat, what I do. As soon as I mentioned the appendix, as soon as I mentioned the gallbladder, it seemed to catch his attention, and he said to me, you have some inflammation, you have some issues here. There's definitely, those didn't just happen because of a genetic predisposition. It could have had a factor in it, but why don't you write down everything that you eat and put into your mouth for the next 2 weeks, and don't try to be a healthy guy because you're dealing with me. Go about your normal life, get back to me in a couple weeks and we'll talk. So I wrote down everything that went to my mouth for 2 weeks, and it was actually quite a revelation to me, writing down how many times a day you put this in your mouth, you drank this, you ate that. Very, very revealing.
My name is Jose Lopez. I am presently the Nassau County Parks Commissioner for the entire region and also museums. Originally from Queens, now I reside in Mineola, Long Island, New York. I have competed now since 1983 in the sport of triathlons. My passion is maintaining a level of fitness through a healthy lifestyle, and I guess to put it all in a nutshell, when I met Dr. Fred, it really put everything in perspective for me. About 3 years ago, I was in a cycling accident in the Ironman in Florida. I went down, I fractured 8 ribs, broke my right foot, and tore apart my left shoulder. For many, many years, everything I had done was based on the fact of just how could I get myself back out there. Well, for whatever reason, I still can't tell you exactly why, but I just know that things happen for a reason. I had made a decision this particular time that I was going to heal myself from the inside out. And what I decided to do is I started reading. Someone who I was coaching personally had walked into my office. I had never seen him look better. I had said to him, I said, if you don't mind me asking, "You've never looked better. What are you doing?" I says, I cannot believe that it's just my exercise programs. And what ended up happening was he shared with me his lifestyle, and because that's how I look at this. I look at this as a lifestyle, I don't look at it as a diet. And he expressed to me that he would be more than willing to share with me. I said, "Well, can you give me the name of this person?" He did. And what ended up happening was I made a phone call to Dr. Fred Bisci, and I brought my wife with me because I'm a very firm believer. I have a very strong family ties, and what ended up happening was it changed both of our lives from that day forward.
I went and met him, and we analyzed how I was eating, what I was eating, why I was feeling a certain way I was, and after a good 2-3 hour session with Fred, evaluating the goods, the bads, and the uglies, he asked me if I was willing to do a lifestyle change in the food that I eat. It wasn't necessarily a diet, it wasn't a South Beach and an Atkins or any of these things, because I tried a few of those. Those to me were just quick fixes. I was looking for something that was going to keep me stable and sustain a life for a lot more years.
What's out there is all of these, to me that's not a lifestyle. That's just, it's a fad. It's something that they're going through to get where they think they want to be, but they don't realize that it's all about, it has to become a lifestyle.
Fred basically introduced me to what he calls his intermediate diet or lifestyle, and he gave me some reading, which I had already done a lot of reading anyway, and at first the rules of the game or the rules of the diet and lifestyle change seemed a little bit much, but I looked at it as a challenge, and a challenge that I was willing to take.
When a person comes into my office, I spend a couple hours with them, and I try to find out what they're capable of doing. In other words, I ask them, do you want to be a vegetarian? You want to eat some animal protein? Then I start from that paradigm. And then I design a program from that's doable. It has to be doable for them. You can't design a program for somebody where they could just, walk out the door and do it for 1 week and then fail. The object for me is to make a doable program for them. And then I decide, with their approval, which is the best way for them to go. Then I make them aware of what's going to happen. I usually can predict them with what's going to happen, which will begin to happen with them in about 3 days if they're coming off the standard American diet. Because the standard American diet is just about, it's just about as bad a diet as you could possibly get. But if you look at it from a nutrient standpoint, people say, oh, I'm getting my protein, I'm eating animal protein, and I'm eating some vegetables, I'm eating some canned string beans and some canned beets, and I'm eating some Del Monte peaches, I'm putting on my cottage cheese, and I'm drinking that plenty of water, because water is so important, and I'm drinking Gatorade, and that just is not going to prevent anybody from developing genetic disease. A lot of things are blamed on genetics, and as we found out, genetics is responsible for very few of the problems that people think are coming from genetics. If your uncle had diabetes and you're going to have diabetes and your children have diabetes, well, that's really not true, because the protein markers in the DNA, you can change them, and a lot of studies are shown that how you change the protein markers by changing your diet.
My name is Pete Cervoni. I am a classically trained professional chef who specializes right now solely in vegan, raw and living foods. I had said being a chef and being in the kitchen all the time, and also having access to the richest foods on the planet, and eating foie gras on a weekly, if not daily basis sometimes, and lobster and butter and cream sauces. Eating this way that I had for so long, it really started to catch up with me, and I started putting on weight. I'm about 65 to 70 pounds lighter now than I was when my health really started to go downhill. And at the time, I was I've been vegan now for almost 11 years. So right around my 30th birthday, I had hit critical mass, which is what I like to call it. It was about 255 pounds, and I was basically a heart attack waiting to happen. And I realized that something had to change. I basically was part of what I like to call the "You Kill It, I'll Cook It" club. And I was working in kitchens where I was cooking antelope, bear, buffalo, snake, alligator, really, you name it, and I was preparing it. And I was able to change and become a vegan, and then was able to change once again, and I'm still in a constant state of change. I'm sure there's a lot of things that if I told Fred what I was eating now, he'd be a little bit disappointed in me.
God has programmed our body, designed our body as a very sophisticated biological organism, has the ability to heal itself, to restore itself, just about any circumstances. But unfortunately, we're living under misapprehension. We think we're able to consume just about anything we want to, that we can put anything into our mouths, or even into our mind, or even into our spirit, and think it's not going to take a toll on us. It does.
It all comes down to what you put in your body that strengthens you. Now you can see some great athletes today eat McDonald's all the time. They're young, they're genetically solid, but they keep eating that McDonald's all the time and all that crap food. Eventually, their limitations are going to set into their talent. Instead of being a phenomenal athlete at 33 or 34, 35, they're going to start to really decline, because it does come down to what you put in your body.
When I was 22, years before I made my lifestyle change, I couldn't do half of the things I do now. And it's also been very interesting and sad in many ways to see a lot of the people that were the pro athletes in college and in high school that I went to school with that are now kind of going down the route that every person in America seems to go down. Now they're aging, they're balding, they're getting heavy, they're having all sorts of health problems. And I have relatively none. I haven't taken any kind of aspirin or any type of drug in the last 11 years, and that speaks volumes about what this lifestyle can do.
I'm not too happy with the way pharmaceuticals are prescribed in this country. I think it's definitely overly prescribed. I've seen loads of situations where people just definitely didn't need pharmaceuticals. My personal belief, and I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not going to make any kind of statements that I would say from a medical standpoint. These are just my personal opinion based on observations. I think if you lead a healthy lifestyle, all I can tell you is that I haven't used any medicine in 40 years.
My name is Joseph Serpico. I live in New York City. I had ulcerative colitis. I developed it when I was about 27. And at one point, after about 6 or 7 years, they wanted to cut out part of my stomach. And I remember obviously saying to myself, I didn't want to do that. I was 33 years old. I was still fairly young. And I knew that it wasn't all stress. They had kept telling me, well, it's stress related, it's stress related. They had given me medication to try to calm me down, and it didn't work when I was on the medication. I wasn't doing anything when I was off the medication. And I started fooling around with diet a little bit on my own because I had food allergies. And I knew that diet could affect a person's health. And I was in the health food store one day, and a person that I know walked in and said to me that, maybe she knew the condition that I had, and she said to me, maybe you'd be interested in seeing a nutritionist. The nutritionist was Dr. Fred Bisci, and I made an appointment to see him. And this is 15 years ago. But I do remember saying to myself that I don't know if this is going to work, because it just sounded so radical. And, I remember asking him, well, what specifically do I need to do with a diet regarding, ulcerative colitis condition? And he said, well, this is what you need to do. And then he went on to tell me, well, this will also work if you have acne. He says, if you need to lose weight, it'll help. If You have heart disease will help. And then I remember started saying to myself, maybe this man's a little crazy. All right, you know what? But I like the guy. I liked him from the outset. What do I have to lose? You know, I'll do it. So I did it, and after about maybe a couple of weeks, the symptoms started to subside without medication, which was very unusual. It never happened in the previous 6 or 7 years that I had this.
Your body has fabulous ability to heal itself based on what you leave out. So I have seen people that they didn't know what was the matter with them. Nobody could really come up with what was the matter with them. And they come on in here and, you know, give the body a chance to, with its infinite wisdom, to heal them based on what we leave out. And they get better. Of course, I don't want to give the wrong impression here. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to get better from everything. It's not the case. You know, there are people that I see in the end stage of disease, and for one reason or another, you know, they don't come out of it. But see some fabulous results with a lot of people that are not supposed to get better. And chronic diseases that people have, just about everybody gets better.
I was very much into lifting weights, and I had even entered an amateur bodybuilding contest at one point. And I had lost a lot of weight on the diet. I went from like 185, 190 pounds to maybe 160, 65. And I felt small and thin. And I didn't want to walk around like that. So I started eating more conventionally again. And Fred had told me, Dr. Fred Bisci had said to me, he said, if you do this, what had happened before is going to return. And I said, okay, you might be right, he might not be, but you know, I want to start lifting weights again. I want to gain another 10, 15 pounds back. So I started eating more conventionally again. And sure enough, within about 4 or 5 months, 6 months, the condition returned. So I went and saw Fred again, and he said to me, what happened? He says, you went back eating the regular way again. Yeah, Fred, I did. So he said, well, I told you this was going to happen. I said, well, I know. I says, I kind of believed you, kind of didn't. I said, but I really didn't care. I wanted to start lifting weights again. So he said, Joe, he says, what's more important, that you have a great looking body or that you're walking around in good health? And I stuck to that diet, and the colitis never came back, and the allergies never came back, and I had a lot of energy. And again, even mentally, my mind felt different.
At 42 years old, I've never felt better in my life. Fred opened so many doors for me not only when I spent time with him did he talk about his philosophy, but he also introduced me to quite a few other different luminaries, for lack of a better word. But one of them was Arnold Ehret. And his big formula that he had created was V equals P minus O. And it's basically V, the vitality, the abundant health, equals P, the power, the natural healing power of the body, minus O, which are obstructions. And I remember at the time when Fred told me about Arnold Ehret and he told me about V equals P minus O, I was like, okay, you know, I don't really get it. But through the years now, I've been able to experience it firsthand. My body, I've allowed my body to heal itself and to take care of itself. My energy levels now are literally through the roof.
There's no coincidence that my performance over the past couple of years, especially after such a serious accident, is continuing to actually move forward, as opposed to with age, you know, going downward. It's actually starting to move forward again. And there's no doubt in my mind that it has to do with the fact that I've sort of dialed in my nutrition.
Processed food is like a curse. When you eat processed food, it's almost like putting a curse on your body. Because based on the study done at Duke University, genetics is not destiny. Remember, the genetic expression is derailed by processed food. So if you're eating processed food, your body sooner or later is going to start to falter. You're putting a burden on your body when you're eating processed food.
Junk food is not real food. Processed food is not real food. It's like having a key that fits into a lock. It doesn't open a lock. It's very, very deceiving. You don't realize it until it's got the best of you. We're getting sicker and younger because of the processed food. Bypass surgery. I mean, it's very, very common. You talk to people and they talk about, oh yeah, just had a guy on the phone this morning. He said, had a triple. I thought he was talking about baseball. He had triple bypass. I didn't know he was talking about softball or what.
Hi, my name is Susan Tully, and I live in Summit, New Jersey. I first met Fred, I would say it was probably about 11 years ago, through one of my design clients. I met Fred and he asked me a bunch of stuff, and he said, "Are you on any medication?" And I said, "The only thing I'm on really are inhalers for when I do ice hockey." And so he said to me about 85% of the population is allergic to wheat and dairy, and maybe you want to try just for 3 weeks to eliminate wheat and dairy and see if it helps you at all. And then we can sort of go from there. In the meantime, I'll give you this medium diet that I recommend, or medium food eating plan, and then we'll regroup and go from there. Now that was, I want to say, 11 years ago. I have never had any asthma problems since then. My daughter has cystic fibrosis, a mild case of it, but she has it nonetheless. And I was so intrigued with my own personal health and well-being and the difference it made, which was majorly dramatic to me. So she went on this plan probably about 10 years ago, and it has definitely reduced dramatically her symptoms, her need to be on antibiotics.
What you leave out of your dietary lifestyle, and I want to make this perfectly clear here. What you leave out of your lifestyle is the most important thing that you could do to recover from some serious disease.
When I met Susan 11 years ago, she was pretty much together with Fred already, and was very different than the way I was eating. And I very quickly took up following Susan's steps and Fred's, and I did that for about a year and a half, and this is 10 years ago, and never felt better in my life. And I had previously in my life trained for like a year and a half at the gym and with a trainer, but my eating was still the same. So even though I was getting fit, I really wasn't feeling too well still. Once I had eaten like Fred recommended, my whole life changed. My doctor was prescribing medication. I started having the Prilosec pills around, and I said, I go into a drugstore and to pick up something, and I noticed that there's so many people in there buying pills every day, and I don't want to be one of those people. And I know there's another answer to it because I've been there before. And so, needless to say, I went back to Fred's plan. Today, I don't know what reflux is. I don't know what IBS is, and my triglyceride levels are the lowest in the past 10 years. It's a life change. It's a commitment to changing your lifestyle and what you consume. But the benefits so far outweigh the negatives.
And things that Fred was telling me 10, 11, 12 years ago, I'm now beginning to see little smidgens of it sort of in the open arena of, nutritionists.
Diets don't work.
No.
Because diet, whenever the word diet, right next to it, you can look at the word deprivation. And that's what everybody's thinking about. And you're depriving yourself, especially emotionally. See, the basic addiction in life is feeling good. Once you get into this chemistry about food, eating the wrong foods, it's like a drug addiction. It's the same thing. Food is broken down into chemicals. Once you break that, you're able to eat real food, enjoy it, and you're not deprived no more. It's not a deprivation type of diet. It's a rewarding diet. What you're doing is you're just changing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
You're only changing the rules of the game, that's all.
Believe it or not, Ray is 12 years younger than I am, and Fred has always said to me there are certain things that'll slow the aging process, and I like that.
You're leaving out all the processed food, and they have a lot more leeway where they can eat some animal protein, they can eat some starches, and if it's done the way it's programmed into the diet, loads of people are doing it, getting great results, getting rid of a lot of degenerative disease.
My name is Anthony Delaventura. I'm a retired police detective. I'm also a retired private investigator. I've been experiencing for the last 2 years some upper respiratory problems with my breathing, and I've acquired some sort of a asthma type condition, And also, I've had problems with my right ankle and my right shoulder. Before I met Fred, I was doing maybe around 10 to 15 Diet Cokes a day. And my diet was fairly good. I stayed away from fried foods and some other things, but beyond that, according to the lifestyle that I live now, my diet really wasn't the greatest, but according to everybody else in the United States, it wasn't too bad. You can find and figure out different ways of, getting close to some of the things that you really like to eat. For instance, to do things like with pasta. I enjoy pasta, but the pasta I eat now is all brown rice, gluten-free pasta. You can get organic tomatoes. You can use your garlic. You can use your oil, so long as the oil is in the right proportion. Doing the raw foods and the salads, you can use different combinations, tomatoes and different other vegetables in your salads and in your greens, and it becomes a lifestyle, and to me, it's very enjoyable. I enjoy it.
My name is Denise Wind. I live in Long Beach, New York. Over the years, especially the last 5 or 10 years, going through perimenopause, menopausal years, I've gained about 10 or 15 pounds, maybe even a little more, maybe 17. I had developed high cholesterol, and this is eating vegetarian food, and some anemia, and I had a car accident in 2005 that really messed up my back. For what I was eating healthy, I was eating almost every single morning steamed spinach with whole wheat toast. I was eating salads at lunchtime with beans or different fruits and sometimes nuts and raisins in it, all mixed together. And then at dinner I would kind of piddle out. By dinner time I was already bored with food, and so I'd probably snack on half a bag of whole wheat pretzels just as a quick snack.
The term nutrition is very, very misleading. It's very easy to get all the nutrients that we need. That's not the problem. The problem is that we are addicted to what we're eating. The most powerful chemical that becomes addictive in our lifestyle is the breakdown of the processed food that we're eating in our life, in our diet.
It's what you leave out. Then it's what you put in. What items are you willing to leave out of your diet forever without being overwhelmed? What can you commit to that will be workable for you in everyday life? You will get healthier over time and ultimately reverse the damage you've unwittingly done to yourself if you make the following changes. 80% plant-based and 20% protein-based. Real, fresh, prepared foods instead of processed foods. Raw fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and sprouts instead of canned and conventional items. Grass-fed beef and organic chicken instead of commercial beef or chicken. A moderate amount of whole grains, legumes, and small amounts of animal protein if necessary in the right combinations. 3 meals a day instead of snacking between meals. Eating before dark instead of eating late at night.
So Fred, when someone begins to make this transition and they change their lifestyle and they leave out things that were potentially damaging, and then they suddenly start to include things that are good for them, like fruits and vegetables and raw juices, different symptoms start to come up, and people don't really understand what that's all about. The symptoms of detox: there's headaches, there's fever, there's body aches, and things like that. What's exactly happening to somebody biochemically just because they've started to eat vegetables now and leave out some of the things that some of the things that were damaging to their bodies? They leave these things out, they start to put in more fresh vegetables and water and vegetable juice, and then they start to get sick. Can you explain to us a little bit about what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Where I'd like to begin is we have to take a look at the human body. The human body is a very sophisticated biological organism. And what happens in detox, it really has nothing to do with our intellect. I'm sure you heard me say this many, many times. has nothing to do with our bank accounts. The only thing it has to do is that the human body has fantastic adaptive capabilities. And for everything you leave out of your diet that's negative, that's not conducive to a healthy physiology, when you leave it out, there's a reciprocal amount of improvement because you're taking the burden off the body's chemistry to go to another level to improve its chemistry. So when you really get to a really good diet, your body will recognize that you're leaving out a good deal of the foods that put a burden on a healthy physiology. One of the best ways to deal with this is to cleanse your bowels, is to do enemas, to do colonic irrigations. When you clean out the colon, and it's done correctly, and you make this an ongoing thing, if you cleanse the body, if you stop poisoning yourself, that's the beginning. And for everything you leave out, there's a reciprocal amount of improvement in everything you leave out. That ripples all the way up to an all-raw diet, where you're leaving everything out. But when you go to an all-raw diet, you better be thinking about going for colonics. A lot of people just don't want to hear that, because where it will catch you is down the road. A lot of people don't realize the immediate detox on a raw diet is not the big detox. The big detox is as you get older, as you get into younger than I am, up and to where I am and beyond that, because that's the old stuff. The old stuff is what's been passed down to us from previous generations in our tissue quality, if you're following me here.
So it's the body really rebuilding
The
itself?
body's really rebuilding itself. I would like to say this is almost like a new science here, but there are many parts that we have to put together. And cleansing the biological terrain of the human body, as far as I'm concerned, it's of paramount importance.
Not only you are what you eat, you are what they eat. Now, I'm a meat eater, so I started really paying attention to natural chickens, like chickens that were farm raised, and for that type of eggs. And later I got into organic beef and buffalo, and stuff that was that was way everything. I started to eat better. I started to eat cleaner, and it made a difference.
It really didn't take me more than a couple of weeks to really adjust. I usually do 2, sometimes 3 meals a day, no late night eating, and a lot of things are very, very common sense.
For one thing, my food combinations were so incorrect before. I had so many digestive issues and constant belching and just didn't feel well. And I was eating steamed spinach for breakfast. There's so many acids in steamed spinach that I wasn't aware of. And it was so awful to eat that with bread and whole wheat bread, and all that wheat and gluten was clogging everything up for me. It was tremendously different. And I'm never hungry in between any longer, ever. And before, I was craving all the time. I would crave after breakfast, an hour later. I would crave after lunch. I would crave those sweets, and then at night I would crave the salt. I never have a craving for anything.
Since I met Fred, my way of life has become so much better. I've become, I have more energy. I have more strength. I sleep better, and it's just a great way of living. And I wish everybody can experience this as I have.
But my upper respiratory has totally cleared up, and I said my ankle, my right shoulder, conditions on both of them have improved, and just my general health, my general breathing, and I find, I feel great. I'm 60 years of age, and I feel great.
I want people to understand and believe that you can heal yourself of many things by what you put in and what you leave out. Leaving stuff out is just as important as what you put in. So I want people to understand that. It just gives me the chills to think about the difference that you can be, the difference you can feel, and what you can omit and show people from the inside out.
Don't let fear motivate you. Let the feeling of wellness motivate you, and do it before you have diabetes, and do it before you have cancer or stroke or heart attack. These things are completely real, and we all know it, but so too is good nutrition, and it just makes such a difference.
In closing, my hope and my aspiration is that the people that watch this will be able to see evidence of people with different problems and how by changing their lifestyle, applying this very simple process to their lifestyle, how not only can you prevent many diseases that are existing in our society today, but actually, in many cases, recover from serious disease. I hope that this program that people have watched, they will see the validity to this lifestyle change. They will see that this is not exaggeration. This is a reality that is basically very simple, that everybody can experience if they're willing to be a willing participant in their own recovery. We can accomplish great things. You can have more endurance, more stamina, be pain-free, to feel very good in an advanced stage. So I just want to give everybody the encouragement to realize that this is very doable. Once you try it and you give it a fair trial, you'll realize that this can reap tremendous rewards in your quality of life.